10 times a night. The alien queen could not believe human stamina. The station floated in the silence of deep space, a lonely shape of steel against the black void. It was built as an observation post, a fragile dot compared to the great empires that moved across the stars. Inside, the corridors were quiet, filled only with the soft hum of machines and the echo of footsteps. For the human soldier who had been sent there, it felt more like exile than duty. He was young, strong, but far from home. The emptiness of space pressed against him, and he wondered if anyone in the universe even remembered he was here. The first sign came not with sound, but with vibration. A tremor moved through the station, subtle but strong enough to rattle the metal. Lights flickered as if the machines themselves were afraid. He looked through the viewing glass and saw it, an enormous ship unlike anything human hands had built. Its surface looked alive, shifting like scales of some vast creature. It did not broadcast a message. It did not flash lights of peace. It simply waited as if the station had no choice but to notice it. The soldier's breath slowed. He knew what the record said. There were species in the galaxy older than human history itself. Some were violent, some indifferent, some impossible to understand. Yet nothing in the records had described this. A long line of light stretched from the alien ship to the station, and before he could react, the air filled with a voice that was not a voice. It was inside his head, smooth and cold. "You," it said, "you will come." He tried to resist, but his body felt pulled, not by force but by command. The airlock opened on its own, and the soldier stepped forward, carried by fear and something else, curiosity. The alien ship swallowed him whole, its walls alive with a strange pulse. It was like walking into the body of a giant beast. Then he saw her, the queen. She did not sit on a throne, yet her presence filled the chamber like a storm. Her form was tall, graceful, armored with living plates that shimmered under a strange light. Her eyes were not eyes, but black pools that swallowed every reflection. She looked at him as one might look at a small animal, a thing to test, perhaps to break. "A human," the queen said, her words vibrating through the air and his bones. "Fragile, weak, I have heard of your kind. You burn fast and fall faster. But there are whispers. Whispers of a fire that does not go out. I will see if they are true." The soldier stood frozen, his heart pounding. His training told him to speak with caution, to show no fear. Yet he could not deny what he felt in her presence. She was not just a ruler, she was power made flesh, and her voice was like gravity itself. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely steady. The queen leaned forward, her form casting a shadow that seemed to move on its own. "Because you are here. Because I am curious, and because you will not leave until I am finished." The chamber shifted. The walls glowed with strange patterns, alive like veins. Around him, tall figures appeared. Alien warriors with sharp limbs and armor grown from their own bodies. They watched in silence, their black eyes unblinking. The soldier realized this was no meeting. This was a test, one he had never trained for. The queen raised her hand and the warriors stepped closer, their steps heavy, echoing like drums of war. The soldier's muscles tensed. He had faced combat before, but never like this. His weapons were gone. He had only his body, his will, and the fire inside that refused to be put out. "You will endure," the queen said, "or you will die." The soldier did not move. He felt the weight of her words pressing against him, heavier than any weapon. Yet something inside him sparked. A thought that maybe, just maybe, the stories of human weakness were lies told by those who had never faced them in truth. The queen tilted her head, her dark eyes studying him as if he were already in motion. "We begin tonight," she said. Her voice was final, a judgment written before the trial. The soldier knew then that this was the first of many nights. And though he could not see the future, he felt the truth in her challenge. 10 times a night, 10 nights, perhaps more, he would be pushed beyond reason, beyond body. She would not let him rest until she had her answer. And in that silence, between fear and defiance, the first spark of legend was born. The chamber was not empty when the soldier awoke. He had not remembered falling asleep, but his body told him he had been drained of strength. The air was colder now, filled with a low vibration that hummed through the walls. He opened his eyes and saw the alien queen standing at the far end of the vast hall. Her gaze did not soften, her voice did not ask, it commanded, "You are still alive, good. That means you may begin." The soldier pushed himself up. His muscles felt heavy, but something deeper inside refused to bend. He stood on his feet, facing her without a word. The queen raised her hand and the chamber shifted. The wall split open. revealing long paths that spiraled into the unknown. Strange light poured from the cracks and the smell of metal and dust filled the air. "You claim nothing," the queen said. "Your kind claims nothing. You survive by chance, by luck, but I will not test luck. I will test endurance, walk, survive. If you fall, you will never stand again." The soldier hesitated only for a moment. He looked at the paths ahead. They were dark, alive with movement. Something crawled in the shadows, unseen but not silent. He took a breath and stepped forward. The ground beneath him was alive, pulsing as if it were part of some giant creature. He walked, and the sound of his own steps echoed. The walls glowed faintly, showing alien symbols that twisted and moved when he looked at them too long. His breath grew heavier. The air was thick, pressing against his chest as if every step was deeper into water. Yet he continued. Behind him, the queen's voice followed, soft but sharp. "Weak bones will break. A weak heart will fail. I wonder which one you will lose first." The path grew steeper. The soldier climbed, his hands scraping against the walls that felt both warm and wet. He reached a turn, and before him a figure rose. It was one of the alien warriors, taller than him, its limbs sharp, its armor glistening. The warrior did not attack at once. It simply stood, waiting, the soldier's fists clenched. He had no weapon, only his body, his will. The warrior moved fast, a blur of motion, and struck. The soldier barely dodged, the air splitting beside him. He felt his ribs ache as he rolled aside. He struck back, a simple punch, but it landed against the alien's armor with the sound of bone on steel. Pain shot through his arm, but he did not stop. He struck again and again until the warrior staggered. The alien hissed, a sound like steam, then lunged again. The soldier braced himself. He knew he could not outmatch the strength, but he could outlast. He held his ground, taking the blow, his body screaming, but his mind steady. He twisted, forced the alien down, and for a moment silence. The queen's voice echoed again. "Interesting. One trial. There will be many." The soldier dragged himself forward. His body ached, sweat burning his eyes, but his steps did not stop. The path split again, leading into a chamber where the walls closed in tighter. The air was hot, suffocating. Each breath felt like fire. His vision blurred, but still he walked. Hours seemed to pass, though he had no way of knowing time in this place. The challenges came one after another. Warriors with claws, tunnels that collapsed behind him, rivers of liquid that burned his skin when touched. He endured them all, not with grace, but with refusal. Every time his body told him to stop, something inside him answered with no. At last he stumbled back into the great hall. His chest rose and fell like thunder, his body marked with bruises and cuts. The queen watched in silence. Her eyes, dark and endless, seemed to search through him, past the pain, past the body. "You bleed," she said. "You break, but you do not fall. Strange, very strange." The soldier met her gaze. His voice was hoarse but steady. "Is that all you have?" The warrior shifted around her, uneasy at his words. To challenge the queen was unthinkable, but she did not strike him down. Instead, for the first time, she smiled, or something close to it. "Not all," she said. "You will face 10 nights, and each night will be harder than the last. If you live, perhaps I will believe the whispers of your kind. If you fail, your bones will remain in my halls." The soldier's body begged for rest, but his mind burned with fire. He knew the test was only beginning. The queen had not brought him here to destroy him quickly. She wanted to break him slowly, to see what lay beyond the limit of flesh. And as he stood before her, every breath painful but defiant, he knew one thing. She might test him, she might try to shatter him, but he would endure. Because humans always endure. The first night began without warning. The soldier had not been given rest, nor food, nor water. He had been left in the middle of a vast chamber that seemed alive, its walls pulsing faintly like the veins of some great beast. He knew the queen was watching, though he could not see her. The silence was heavy until it broke with the sound of grinding stone. The floor split apart, revealing a pit that breathed hot air. From the pit rose creatures unlike any he had faced before. Their bodies twisted with sharp limbs, their skin covered with glowing patterns. They moved together, circling him, their black eyes fixed only on him. He had no weapon, but he raised his fists. The first creature lunged, and he met it with raw strength, forcing it down with a strike that rattled his bones. The second came faster, claws cutting across his side. Pain lit his body, but he did not fall. He moved with desperation, each punch, each kick fueled by something deeper than training. He fought until his muscles shook, until his skin was marked with blood, but when the creatures fell silent, he still stood. Above him, a voice like thunder filled the chamber. "One night," the queen said. "9 remain." The soldier collapsed to his knees, his breath ragged. He had survived, but he knew this was only the beginning. His body wanted sleep, but sleep never came. The walls shifted, carrying him into another chamber, and the second night began. This one was colder. The air burned his lungs as if he were breathing ice. The ground beneath his feet cracked with every step, sharp shards slicing through his boots. From the mist rose warriors again, taller and stronger than before. Their strikes were heavier, their movements sharper. He fought them in silence, every blow shaking his body, every fall threatening to keep him down. Yet he always rose. When the last warrior dropped, he was barely able to stand, but he did not collapse. Again the queen's voice came. 2 nights. You bleed more, yet you stand. Curious. The soldier wiped blood from his mouth. He said nothing, for words meant nothing here. Only survival mattered. The third night came with fire. The chamber lit with flames that crawled across the walls, dripping molten sparks onto the ground. His skin burned, his body screamed with heat, but he moved anyway. Creatures born of flames struck at him, their bodies almost impossible to touch. He endured burns, his skin blackened, but his spirit refused to break. When he forced the last burning creature into the fire itself, the chamber darkened once more. The queen spoke, softer now. 3 nights. Still you rise, why? The soldier raised his head, his voice raw but steady. Because I must. The 4th night brought water, not fire. The chamber filled, rising higher and higher until he was forced to swim. The currents dragged him down, the weight of water crushing his chest. Strange shapes moved beneath, wrapping around his legs, pulling him deeper. He fought, striking even in the dark water, lungs screaming for air. When he finally broke the surface, gasping, the chamber drained, leaving him lying broken on the stone, but still alive. The queen's voice lingered longer this time. 4 nights. You should be dead. Yet you are not. The soldier closed his eyes. He thought of home, of earth, of skies filled with light instead of darkness. He thought of faces he had left behind. These thoughts burned brighter than pain. They gave him reason to rise again. The 5th night was the hardest yet. The chamber turned into a storm of blades, walls shifting and striking with sharp edges. Every step drew blood. The soldier moved carefully, his body cut again and again until he reached the center. There 3 warriors waited, stronger and faster than any before. He fought them with nothing but his fists, every strike costing him more strength. Yet somehow, through will alone, he forced them down. When it was over, his body was drenched in blood, but he remained standing. The queen did not speak right away. He felt her silence pressing heavier than her words. Finally, she said, 5 nights. Half are done. But the hardest half remains. The soldier fell to one knee, trembling. Yet he did not let the ground claim him fully. He pushed himself back up, staring into the shadows where he knew she watched. His body was broken, but something inside him refused to be. Night after night, the trials continued. The 6th with endless darkness where creatures struck from unseen places. The 7th with poison filling the air, burning his lungs with every breath. The 8th with walls that closed in, crushing him unless he fought them back with his bare hands. By the 9th night, the soldier could barely move. His skin was torn, his bones felt ready to break. Yet when the trial began, he rose again. He fought not because he could, but because he must. Every step forward was against reason, against nature, against survival itself. But humans were not built to surrender. The queen watched, and for the first time she felt something she had never known. Doubt. Doubt in her belief that humans were weak. Doubt in her idea that she had seen all the universe had to offer. This single soldier had shown her more than any empire had in centuries. And as the 10th night approached, silence filled the chamber. The queen spoke, her voice no longer cold but heavy with something else. 10 nights, she said. The last awaits. If you endure this, you will not only survive. You will prove that your kind is not what I believed. You will prove that even the stars themselves may fear you. The soldier stood, every breath a battle, every movement pain. Yet his eyes did not waver. The 10th night was waiting, and he would meet it. The 10th night ended in silence. The chamber that had roared with fire, storm, and endless enemies now stood still, as if the ship itself waited for an answer. The soldier's body was a map of pain, cuts that bled slowly, burns that refused to heal, bones that cracked with each step. Yet he did not fall. He had survived. The queen stepped forward at last, her tall figure moving from the shadows into the dim light. Her eyes, black as endless space, studied him not as prey, but as something far more dangerous. She circled him slowly, her steps echoing through the hall, her voice low and sharp. 10 nights. No human should endure such trials. No flesh should withstand so much. Yet you stand before me still breathing. Tell me, what are you? The soldier raised his head. His voice was weak but steady. Human. The word echoed like a challenge, and for the first time the queen did not respond with scorn. She was silent, her gaze deep, as if she searched for cracks in his spirit but found none. Around her, her warriors shifted, uncertain. They had seen their queen test countless species. None had lasted. Yet this single man had not only survived, but refused to kneel. The queen lifted her hand and the chamber walls shifted again. Images rose around them, formed from light and shadow. Memories of her people's wars, of empires crushed, of species erased without struggle. She had ruled through fear and strength for centuries, never once doubting her power. She looked at the soldier again, and for the first time she felt something she had not known in ages. Doubt. She spoke softly, almost to herself. If one of you can endure, then what of many? If your kind carries this fire, then perhaps it is not my empire that rules the stars. Perhaps it is only waiting for yours to awaken. The soldier said nothing. His silence was louder than words. He did not beg, did not boast. He simply stood as if his body, though broken, carried the weight of his entire species. The queen's eyes narrowed. She felt something inside her stir, a feeling close to respect, though it was bound with unease. Her empire had conquered worlds, but never had she seen resistance like this. If humans were as weak as she believed, then this soldier should have been crushed on the first night. Yet 10 nights had passed, and he was still here. She stepped closer until her shadow fell across him. "Do you hate me?" she asked. The soldier met her gaze. His lips were cracked, his voice raw, but his answer was clear. "No, I endure." The queen's chest rose in a slow breath. No threat, no defiance, only endurance. That was more dangerous than hate. Hate could be broken, endurance could not. Her warriors looked uneasy, as if waiting for her to strike him down and end this story before it grew larger. But the queen did not strike. Instead, she turned away, her long form disappearing into the darkness at the edge of the chamber. Her voice lingered behind like the echo of thunder. "You may rest. For now, but do not believe I am finished." The soldier lowered himself to the ground, finally allowing his body to give way. Sleep claimed him quickly, but even in sleep his fists were clenched, as if his spirit refused to release the fight. For the first time in centuries, the queen retreated to her private chamber. The walls there pulsed with the same living light, but she felt no comfort in it. She stood before a vast window, staring out at the endless stars. Her thoughts were heavy and for once uncertain. What if this human was not alone in his endurance? What if his kind carried the same fire? The galaxy had always seemed fixed, ruled by the old empires. Yet perhaps that balance was not eternal. Perhaps it was already shifting. She remembered his words. Simple, unshaken. "I endure." That was not weakness. That was strength greater than armies. And if one human could carry it, then others might as well. A shiver passed through her, though her body was not capable of such things. She realized she was not afraid of his fists, nor his body, nor even his defiance. She was afraid of what he represented, a new power rising. When the soldier awoke, he was not chained, not guarded. The chamber around him was empty, yet he knew she was still watching. He moved slowly, each step heavy with pain, but his mind sharpened. This was no longer just about survival. He was part of something larger. Every breath he took was proof to her and her empire that humans could not be broken. The queen watched him from the shadows of the hall, her eyes fixed on him. In her silence, her doubt grew. For the first time, she wondered not whether he would survive her tests, but whether her empire could survive his kind. And as the soldier lifted himself once more, standing tall despite the storm of pain inside him, she whispered words even her warriors could not hear. Perhaps the stars have chosen new rulers. The soldier's body was a ruin, but his spirit had never been brighter. Every wound, every scar, every broken rib told a story. 10 nights of pain had not ended him. They had shaped him into something more. He stood once again in the great chamber, his eyes locked on the queen. Around them, her warriors lined the walls, silent but restless. They had watched his survival with disbelief. Now they waited to see the end. The queen stepped forward. Her tall figure moved with grace, yet there was a weight to her steps. She had seen countless species rise and fall, yet this single man unsettled her. His presence gnawed at her certainty. Her voice filled the air, smooth but heavy. You have endured what none before you have survived. You bleed, yet you walk. You suffer, yet you rise. I have seen machines collapse sooner than you. I have seen empires fall with less fight than you alone. Tell me, human, what is the source of this strength? The soldier's lips were cracked, his throat dry, but his voice cut through the silence. It is simple. We endure because we must. We fight because we cannot stop. You can break our bones, burn our skin, drown our lungs, but you cannot take our will. That is what makes us human. His words echoed through the chamber, and for a moment even the warriors lowered their gaze. The queen stood still, her black eyes fixed on him. She had expected defiance, pride, even begging, but what she heard was something deeper. It was truth. She moved closer until she towered over him. You think your kind will rise against mine? That your fire will spread across the stars? The soldier's gaze did not waver. Not think, no. The word struck harder than any weapon. The queen's warriors hissed, their limbs shifting as if ready to strike him down. But the queen raised her hand and silence returned. She stared at him, her expression unreadable. Inside her, conflict burned. She could crush him now, erase him from existence and silence the doubt that had taken root in her mind. Yet she hesitated. That hesitation itself was a wound greater than any strike he had delivered. The chamber shifted again. The walls lit up with strange symbols, glowing brighter until the entire hall seemed alive. From the center of the floor rose a great structure, a throne carved of living metal. The queen stepped onto it, her form bathed in light, her voice carrying across the hall like thunder. Hear me, she declared to her warriors. This human has faced the trials of 10 nights. He has not fallen. He has not begged. He has shown a fire I thought impossible. If one of his kind carries such strength, then humanity itself may be a storm yet to come. The warriors stirred, uneasy at her words. Their queen had never spoken with respect toward another species. To honor a human was unthinkable, yet none dared challenge her. She turned her gaze back to the soldier. You will return to your world. Carry my warning with you. Tell your kind that the stars watch, that the empires fear, that the queen of 1,000 worlds has seen the fire of your species and does not dismiss it. The soldier's chest rose and fell with each painful breath. He had not expected mercy nor recognition. But this was more. It was victory, though not in the form of blood or conquest. It was in the mind of the queen herself, in the doubt she could never silence again. He straightened, his body broken but his spirit unbent. I do not carry your warning. I carry proof. Proof that humans do not bow. Proof that when the stars test us, we rise. The queen's dark eyes flickered with something almost human. Curiosity, respect, and the faintest trace of fear. She lowered her head slightly, not in defeat but in acknowledgement. Then go, human. Carry your fire back to the void. I will not forget what I have seen. The chamber dimmed, the light fading as the walls opened once more. A path appeared, leading him back toward the ship that had swallowed him. His body wanted to collapse, but he walked forward anyway, each step echoing louder than the last. Behind him, the queen stood tall on her throne, silent as the void, yet forever changed. When the soldier returned to the emptiness of space, the stars seemed brighter. The station he had left behind was waiting, fragile against the dark, yet no longer small in his eyes. He had carried the weight of humanity into the heart of an empire, and he had endured. And though he was only one man, his survival was more than personal. It was a message carried not by words but by proof. Proof that humans could not be broken. Proof that even queens of the stars could doubt their power when faced with human will. As he stepped back onto the station, his body failing but his spirit blazing, he whispered into the silence, 10 times a night, 10 nights, and still I stand. The words were not for himself. They were for the stars, for every empire that believed humanity was weak, and in the far reaches of space. The alien queen sat on her living throne, her thoughts heavy, her doubt deep. She had faced countless challengers, but only one had left her wondering, humans. And in that wonder was the first crack in her empire.